Greetings and salutations, fine people. I'm Patti Alvarez. Welcome to The Good Soul, a show where we'll have supercharged chats with everyday humans from all walks of life and unpack what in their story will inspire us all. We'll extract the untapped wisdom, distill it, and serve it up to you in all the right ways that will engage, enlighten, and most of all, inspire growth within your soul. I think people are awesome. So join me on this journey through the hearts and minds of ordinary people to uncover the good soul within you. This is The Good Soul. Welcome, everybody, to The Good Soul. It's episode 7, and I'm in shock right now. I can't believe how far we've come. Today's episode is titled Growing Up Good Soul, Healthy Parenting. So before I start going into my spiel, let me introduce my reason for living, my most treasured masterpiece, and the love of my life. This is my baby, Molly. Hi, Moms.
Hi.
How are you, sweetie?
I'm good. It's good to be here.
It's good to have you. I'm so
Thank you.
excited. I've been counting down the minutes till we can have this conversation.
Mm.
Um, so we're going to go through all different versions of parenting. There's all different situations that people are set up in, up to and including foster situations. So some of us grow up in this picture perfect, you know, what do they say, 2.5 kids, suburban upbringing. And some people literally get bounced around to foster homes and everything in between. We all have our experience as both parents and, of course, as children. So I didn't plan this when Molly was growing up, but I guess I could safely say that you grew up pretty good soul. Would you agree?
I would like to think so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I think what inspired me most of all in this episode, aside from wanting to have you on, was that over the summer, I had said something to you about how I carried a lot of guilt and I felt as though you kind of got shortchanged. And you were like, Mom, are you kidding me? I had like the best childhood in the world.
Yeah.
So you really believe that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. I
Yeah.
mean, everything does have its ups and downs.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of the good soul, you
Yeah.
know? But everything has its ups and downs, but what I remember, it's
Yeah.
mostly ups.
Yay. Okay, that
Yeah.
makes me really happy. Well, I feel like I was talking to Aunt Kelly about you a couple weeks ago, and she was just talking about how proud she was of you and what a solid human being you are. And as she says, Molly has her you know what together. Like you really do. She gets it done. Actually, Molly and Squeaky, her boyfriend, are going to Italy tomorrow. She goes
Yes.
to the University of Alabama. She's a senior and she's home and flying out of Charlotte tomorrow for a 2-week trip in Italy. And I was shocked and amazed at the amount of money you told me the two of you saved. You haven't asked me for a dime for this trip. You've done it all on your own, right? I'm very proud of you, Moms.
Thanks.
You're a
Thanks.
whole heck of a lot better than I was when I was your age. I'd be like, Dad, I need some help. No. But anyway, Molly and I had a very unique experience, and I'm sure many of you can relate. As of course, we all know that just about 50% of households or marriages end in divorce. And the relationship with Molly's father and I was no different. We went with the lower half and we decided to part ways. We did part ways I would say not pretty, very amicably. So you don't have any memories of any tumultuous fighting and screaming. It wasn't
No.
a violent separation or I mean, no separation or divorce is fun, but it was she and I against the world. When we first had separated, he had decided to he was working on Wall Street in research, and he decided to get a job in academia. And he kind of threw his resume out all over the country and got picked from the University of Alabama. So he's in their business library.
Mm.
And he went there. And when we were separated at the time, we had said, why don't you go down there and we'll treat it like it's almost like you're in the military or something like that. And let's see where it all ends up. So it ended up where he met Laura. They fell in love. He stayed there. All's well that ends well. So I like to say our situation was a little Thelma and Louise, wouldn't you
Yeah,
say?
definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I always treated Molly like an adult, and we're going to get into the different styles of parenting, but I always kind of pulled you right along with me with what I was doing. So back when Facebook first came out, I read a really cool article, and all I remember is the father's name was Big Ed. And this article alluded to what families do and why they do it and how we've kind of switched roles. And this was, again, this was probably, I read this probably in 2008, I would say, where when we were kids, my papa, my father, your grandfather liked skiing. So we went skiing. We would go see my cousin in Pennsylvania. We'd go down to Atlantic City. We did what Donnie and Papa wanted to do when we were
Mhm.
kids. And I'm finding a lot of my friends, and it's understandable that the world is filled with theme parks and delights that are geared towards children. I found that you and I took a little bit more of an approach where you kind of hopped on to the surfboard of my interests and you kind of rode the waves with me that way,
Right. Yeah.
right? Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I had no problem with it. And since it was only us, not only, but it was primarily just me and you.
Yeah.
Um, I had no problem with it. It's like it was fun, the things that you wanted to do. I don't remember ever having an issue with doing that. But
Yeah.
yeah, we would do things that I don't know if I necessarily had an interest in them when we were doing them, but um I learned to like them, and they have
Yeah.
since kind of like formed my interests and become my interests.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll get into all that stuff,
Mhm.
but I definitely agree with you, and that's what happens, that I remember I was nursing Molly, I was in Disney World, and you were probably that was when when you got the chicken pox.
Oh my
She
gosh.
gets this big, like, dot on her nose, and my
Mhm.
mother's like, "She's got the chicken pox." And I'm like, "Mom, shut up. She doesn't have the chicken pox. Please stop." Sure enough, the Disney doctor had to come to our room and she had the chicken pox.
Mhm.
But I remember at some point on that trip, and my sister Kelly would be laughing if she heard this story. I had like a hormonal, some type of fit at in Italy at the restaurant in Italy, and I threw you in the stroller, and I was like, buzzing through, going back to our hotel room. And I remember I called Dr. Iglesias Hecky, and this was probably one of the most powerful parenting um, mantras that I still adhere to. And what he said to me is, if you're a good person, she will be a good person. That she is looking and watching at your every move so much more than you know, your interests, your belief systems, all your systems of virtue. So, if there's any inspiration to really want to become a better human being, let that be the inspiration, would be the love for your kids. I also remember at some point, and we can go on and on for days with stories, and I want to get through the timeline a little bit, but we were at this point, and I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but we were living in Red Bank in the shoebox apartment versus the yellow apartment. And I remember I went out with Kelly and Tammy, and I got sick and I was hungover, and I decided I wasn't going to drink anymore. And all I remember thinking to myself is, this child doesn't understand what it means to be hungover, and she still needs me to perform at an optimal level as her parent.
Mm.
And like that was just one really cool example of how having you made me a better human being. I can't say I don't drink anymore, don't do naughty things from time to time, but in moderation. I think that was part of it, and that
Yeah.
I would only want to accept any behavior um, for myself
Mhm.
as being acceptable for you. In other words, I wouldn't do anything or create any new habits that it would bother me if you did yourself. So,
Yeah.
so thank you for that, and so many other things. So, segment two is coming up. We're going to talk about our kids to be an extension or not to be an extension of us. Are they our brand ambassador, and how much of their behaviors and interests and failures, let's be real, is a reflection on us, which is a hot topic in this world today. And of course, we'll go through the four parenting styles. So don't go away, like, share, and come back for segment two of The Good Soul, Growing Up Good Soul. Hello, hello, everybody. And if you're a Howard Stern fan, you'll know hello, hello, Baba Booey, what that means. But anyway, welcome back to The Good Soul, episode 7. We are talking growing up good soul with my beautiful and most precious and prized and treasured masterpiece, my daughter, Molly. Welcome back, Molly.
Thank you.
It's so good to have you, sweetheart. We were talking a little bit about my experience kind of going into parenthood and what a unique experience we had. And this is something I really want to give Molly props for, is how well you adapted to every change, every curveball I threw your way. Whether it was taking a vacation at the last minute, we're running into the city, oh, you have to go stay at Aunt Kelly's, but you always adapted so well. And I'm
Thanks.
lucky for that. I wouldn't be able to be doing a lot of the things I got to do business
Mhm.
wise or travel wise if I had a child who, wasn't willing to kind of make sacrifices and again kind of
Yeah.
take those adventures with me. So
Mhm.
so big thanks to you, baby. Um so we live vicariously through our children every day. And this is something that I've always kind of grappled with all these kind of like pay to play sports where it's literally, this is an old statistic, but it's a $15 billion a year business where getting back to kind of the big Ed story, how I'm watching a lot of my friends do it. They kind of are traveling around, getting on airplanes and trains to go to hockey games and go to soccer games and go to cheerleading competitions. And I give them all a lot of credit. I think that's one of the biggest sacrifices that you made is,
Yeah.
well, because I was so busy,
Mhm.
it was hard for us to get on a plane and go to a
Yeah.
cheer competition. You didn't do cheer, but
No.
um, but but what you did do was really cool. Let's talk about that for a
Oh, wow.
second.
Yeah.
Small
Oh.
factory flex.
Oh, jeez.
So yeah, so if we can show the graphic, we're going to try and show the graphic here. But Molly went to an animation school, and of all the kids that went
Yeah.
to that school, they wanted you and Kylan to host a, basically it was a children's cartoon show
Yep. Yep.
called Small
Yeah.
Factory
Small
Flicks.
factory flicks. We would go in and throughout all the classes, the kids would make cartoons and they would produce them, make the sound and everything. And me and Kylan on the show, we would introduce the cartoons. We'd make little jokes back and forth. It was
Yeah,
fun. Yeah.
absolutely. You're like a
Yeah.
little Carol Burnett and Harvey Keitel
Oh my gosh.
duo. Yeah, you guys, they were really adorable. And the show actually went on to win a New York Emmy,
I
which is, I
did.
think, is really cool.
Yeah.
All right, so let's backtrack a little bit. Let's go a little bit through the timeline of your life. Let me get back to my other card.
Okay.
So, after Daddy and I separated, we go to Naughty and Papa's.
Mhm.
You are in, do you remember what grade you were in?
When you separated?
Yeah. Third
Uh,
grade?
I think it was second.
Second or third
Second.
grade.
Yeah.
So we're living in Locust
Hmm.
and we moved. Okay, we're living in Locust, and Daddy went to live with his mom, with
Hmm.
with Grandma, which was just up the street. And about 3 months after we separated, our house burnt down.
Yes, it did.
Yes, we had a house fire.
Yeah.
Molly and I were in the house. I was downstairs taking a bath. I heard a fire alarm go off. I go up the stairs and I see her down this hallway. And behind her, I see the glow of the fire. I thought
Hmm.
I was dreaming, and you were like half asleep and you like walked towards me. And what's freaky, if anybody's ever experienced any type of fire that they couldn't control, let's knock wood as I say that, that I remember I was wearing a tank top and I wrapped a sheet around myself.
Hmm.
And we walked outside, and I'm giving you this like Tony Robbins talk, like, Molly, these are where the seeds of future successes are planted, and
Yep.
we will endure, we will get through this. And you literally like turn around and the whole second floor is up in flames,
Yeah.
like literally within 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So if you ever have any type of fire like that, don't worry about your Louis. Don't worry about getting, your favorite this or that. Get the heck out of that house, because
Hmm.
that's how quickly it happens. And that taught me how quickly or how easily houses go up in flames.
Yeah.
So at any rate, we had the house fire.
Mm.
We end up at Nani and Papa's.
Yeah.
My mother was the greatest mother in the world. My father was the greatest father in the world. But somewhere about a week into living at Nani and Papa's, I kind of looked at Nani and she looked at me and she's like, maybe we should go live in Seabright. And I was like, okay. So my
Yeah.
parents had a condo in Seabright, which is about 10, maybe 10 or so miles away. And we went and stayed there. And that was magical. To me, those were like the golden days.
Yeah. I
I
loved living there.
I love living there
Hmm.
too. So I decorated it really fun. I used a lot of really bright colors. So Seabright is a peninsula for those of you who don't know. So we backed up to the river,
Hmm.
and then across the street, you could see the ocean. There's a beach club kind of in front. And
Yeah.
while we were there, Hurricane Sandy hit.
Yeah.
So we again got displaced, but at that point we had the juice bar.
Mhm.
So we ended up moving back to Red Bank and we got an apartment above the juice bar.
Yeah.
That was probably no bigger than this room
Yeah.
that we're in. That
Yeah.
was I didn't like that at all.
Me neither.
Yeah, that was horrible. We
Yeah.
slept on an air mattress.
Oh my
We
gosh.
would wake up in the middle of the night and the
Wait.
mattress would deflate and we would be like sinking. Like she'd be like, "Mom," and I'd like turn it back on and it would
Oh my
inflate itself
gosh.
back up again. It was
Yeah.
so much fun. But anyway, so I want to read something that really resonated with me. It was written by Dr. Shafai. She's always on Oprah. She wrote a book called Conscious Parenting. So this discusses our love for our children. So, our love for our kids can take our breath away, both in its limitless expansiveness and in its heartbreaking anxiety. It is the perfect cocktail of the most piercing adoration and the most excruciating fear. This is what our kids do for our souls. They expand them as never before, but also twist them into a pulp and throw a dagger at them. Then they walk away without even noticing. Boom. So
Yeah.
yeah. So she was the cutest kid. Strangers would stop us on the street. They asked her to host a children's television cartoon. She did. And you had the cutest little voice like a mouse. And then one day we were driving down the street and she was probably about 12 years old. And I'll never forget, you were reading a teen Vogue and we were in, I think it was like Mechanic Street in Red Bank. And
Yeah.
you looked at me and you basically like, I always say you'd like grew fangs and basically were
Yeah.
like, I hate you.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, where did my little cherub go? My little pumpkin head.
Yeah.
Where did she go?
I remember
And
this.
that I think where it's like some of the tension and some of let's face it, like the changes and the
Mhm.
seeming, that we could say the tough spots really started to come out
Mhm.
in you. I mean, you were fine. You didn't rebel or anything like that, but you
Yeah.
just weren't very nice to me for a few years. But that's okay.
I was a hormonal
You're
teenager.
a hormonal teenager, and I'm so glad you're unapologetic about it, and you're not like, "Oh, mom, I'm so sorry. It's
Yeah.
terrible." No, that's really great. Well, I love that. I love that about you. So,
Thanks.
2 points, Patty. No, I'm only kidding. I'm only kidding. No, you were really but it reminds me of I don't know if anybody has seen the morning show with Jennifer Aniston, but it's one of my favorite scenes. And we talk about this a lot, the teachers at Good Soul in the lobby. Jennifer Aniston is kind of like a Katie Couric, and her daughter at this point is in college. And she goes to her daughter's college dorm and she brings her a pizza. And I forget what the daughter said, like, oh, I don't like pizza or whatever. And she just looked at her daughter and she like turns red in her like adorable Jennifer Aniston way. And she's like, F you, kid. And, she just is like, I squoze you out of me. You were the size of a watermelon and I squoze you out of the, hole the size of a peanut. And I've bled for you and I've stayed up late nights for you. And, you go through all these things as parents. And I just always find it really interesting. And you're gonna deal with this too. I mean, I can't wait. Hopefully someday soon you'll be a parent. We'll see. You got to finish grad school,
Yeah.
but but that, it's a thankless job. I mean, in a
Yeah.
lot of cases, thankless on the surface,
Mhm.
the most rewarding job in terms of when you look at, the finished product.
Mhm.
But that's another thing that I want to take pause and be grateful for because, I am grateful because
Yeah.
there are a lot of parents and God bless them, all of them. And they're some of my closest friends and loved ones whose kids suffer from drug addiction, who just for one reason or another, they can't get their act together. They're depressed, they're sad, suicide. I mean, all these crazy things have gone on and how lucky we are and how lucky I feel as a parent to be able to have you made it very easy for me. Let me put it to you. Let me put it
Thanks.
that way. And I think a large part of that is it's not just me, but it's also the village that you grew up in. It's that everybody that babysat you, everybody
Mhm.
that worked at Funkin' Standard, everybody that was around you, right, was somebody I would want you to learn from and be inspired by,
Right.
but also had qualities that I didn't have,
Mhm.
right? The biggest and most epic and monumental props I need to give to your Aunt Kelly,
Hmm.
my sister Kelly. Because if it wasn't for my sister Kelly, I don't think that I would have been able to have my business. I wouldn't have been able to kind of, I guess, how do I phrase this? Heal from the PTSD of getting divorced, and she was so her and Uncle Tom were so supportive. It goes without saying that Nani and Papa were supportive. They were your grandparents, but Kelly didn't have to do 95% of the things that she did for you.
Yeah.
And I hope you too recognize that.
Oh, 100%.
You
Yeah,
do.
yeah. She was like a second mom almost,
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
she
yeah.
definitely was.
A lot of my best childhood memories are with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's where, I kind of grappled with a lot, like a lot of vacations that you took without me, you took
Mm,
with them, or you'd go with the more Colases to places. But again, that was the sacrifice I made in order to run the business, where I think on the back end, the benefits kind of, you know,
yeah.
far outweighed that. So thank you for that, Molly. And thank you again, Kelly and Tom, for helping out and being such great role models for my Molly. So coming up on segment 3, we are going to talk a little bit more about taking care of our kids without taking over and getting a little bit more into that whole village thing. So remember, like, share, comment, don't go away. We will be back right after this. Hey, everybody, welcome back to The Good Soul, episode 7, Growing Up Good Soul, Healthy Parenting with my beautiful, sweet angel, Molly Siciliano. So, we left off talking a little bit about our history, and I want to get a little bit more into um, parenting, people playing the God complex, and really important to understand that taking care of your kid and inspiring them without taking over and making it about you. So, I'm going to read you a little excerpt again, something that really hit home for me. Our kids are our greatest awakeners for all that we have yet to heal, but we wrap our kids in our identity. Our children are extensions of us. They are our brand ambassador. So, who they are, what they wear, their grades, whether they got first place or third place, we say we don't care, right? But how much truth is there into that? And how are they feeling? What is that doing to them, right? Um, your self-worth cannot rely on your child, especially not somebody who's 3 years old or 5 years old or even 14 years old. It's too much weight for them to bear. How do we expect them to go out in the world and blossom, right, when we're suppressing their wants and needs because we're so worried about trying to have them kind of take on the things that we like in life. So I wanted to be a football player, and this would obviously be speaking to dads. I want to be a football player, and I didn't get to live my dream. I broke my ankle, or something happened that stopped me, but I'm going to make my kid become the star football player. And, sometimes it works. Sometimes it works, and you're lucky enough for the kid to have liked it. I don't think we did that. I don't
No,
think we did that.
no. Um, I think one really great thing that I always kind of refer back to in my head about my childhood and your parenting style was that you always like kept in mind, either unconsciously or consciously, that a child is not a doll that you've bought at a store. A child is a human being. And I don't know if this is a unique situation since I was such like a mild mannered kid.
Mhm.
Kind of, I never really had a temper very much.
Mm.
Um, but you treated me kind of like an adult or like a peer almost. I always saw you as a mother figure and I
Yeah.
feel like you always treated me like your daughter, but um it's good to remember that like your child is they're a human being,
Yeah.
that you don't have to parade them around,
Yeah.
and I never felt paraded around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though you did great things, and you don't have to,
Oh,
you did
right,
great
right.
things that
Yeah. No, no, no.
I
I'm
had
not
well
I'm not denying
reason.
that. Yeah.
Well, I was always paranoid, like with Small Factory Flicks, that people were gonna think I was like a almost like a beauty pageant
Yeah.
mom, which I was the opposite of. Yeah.
No,
I mean,
yeah.
that fell into our lap. We
Mhm.
we really, I mean, Chris Dudek came to me like, "Come on, Patty." So we should actually send him a copy of this episode. He
Yeah.
would probably be so proud. But
Aw.
yeah, well, thank you for saying that too.
Yeah.
And again, that just came naturally. I think
Mhm.
that all of the work we do on ourselves kind of funnels its way through into everything from the
Mhm.
way we parent to the way that we drive our cars to the way we cook dinner. I mean, we put integrity into things.
Right.
But that makes me really happy to hear you say that. The one thing I think I failed you on is teaching you how to keep your room clean. That's probably my one.
You're a failure.
Yeah,
Just kidding.
joking. Well, in the words of the great Oprah Winfrey, what does that have to do with you? And why do you care? Meaning me. So, in your favor, right? That's the one bone of contention I have with Molly. She gets home, and especially now, we just bought a beautiful new house. There's not like a toothpick out of place in our home. And I walk in her room, and it's like, like the suitcase exploded all over the place, and I want to have a nervous breakdown. I remember some days I would stand in your doorway. It was probably during COVID. I would stand in your doorway and I would like almost start crying, like, please, Molly, put on 3 Lana Del Rey songs. I'll be back and your room will be clean. And I would come back and the room wouldn't be clean.
Yeah.
But that brings up an interesting time for me that during COVID, um, at one point, you were nasty. You were being nasty to me. I will never forget this. You were home from Alabama. So your first year at University of Alabama is when COVID hit. So you started in the fall, and that March, where when the lockdown started, you have to come home. And I remember you got me really upset about something. And I like got so mad. And do you remember that? And I slammed my hand down. I remember Manny was like, I remember, man, you were like, whoa, like I've never seen you. Yeah, he was totally like, hey now, like he's never seen me get that angry. And I was like, I'm going to take your phone and your keys, and you're going to have to find a way with your father to get you back to Alabama, and you can go stay with them. And let's see how they take it if you talk that way to them. And I remember, I
Don't
feel like
remember
you don't
this.
remember that.
No.
I feel like maybe it was me asserting myself as a
Yeah.
parent, um, that you really changed after that. Like it made you a lot nicer.
Hmm.
You don't even remember that. Isn't that hysterical?
Yeah. Well, I mean, still
You don't like to
probably
see me
like
mad
affects
though.
it. Oh my God, no.
Oh my God,
When
no.
you, yeah, when you get mad, it's like a switch that plays. It's
Maddie
scary.
knows. Maddie's looking at Molly like,
Yeah.
No, I don't have a venomous or a
No,
temper. I don't have
not
like
at
I'm
all.
not a violent person,
Mm.
but well, I have my limits. And I think that that's it. I'm very forgiving. And then
Yeah.
I hit a point like a lot of people.
Mhm.
I just hit a point where no bien.
No,
And
yeah.
and I think that that comes back to what you were talking about before, how I treated you like your peer,
Mhm.
but there was always kind of this like looming in the background. And I think this is important for everybody to really, especially you young mothers, to always maintain that level of respect. I always remember Manny saying, like, you want them to love you, you want them to enjoy being around you, but you don't want them to be like your buddy.
Mhm.
Like you said, you use the word peer, and I like that you use it in that context.
Mhm.
But there is a certain amount of like, this is your dance space, this is my
Mhm.
dance space. And that's something that we grapple with too, because you want your kids to be happy. You want them to be able to eat Japanese food, even when you're in the mood for Indian food. Like there's got to be some element of compromise, right? And I think we did a really good job at doing that together, you and I.
Mhm.
But who's in charge around here is a really important question that a lot of parents need to ask themselves.
Yeah.
And I think that when we don't clearly define those boundaries, that we're doing our children a major disservice. Um, limits are pushed, and also that, I mean, as I've said, I remember saying this once to I think it was Stacy, that about how you have to, and I know this is a quote, and probably somebody could tell me who wrote it. I don't know off the top of my head, but that you must prepare the child for the path and not prepare the path for the child.
Mhm.
So you really need not pad, right, the environment around your kid. You want to throw them out there because the
Mhm.
net is going to appear. They're going to find their way. And you're really handicapping your kid by doing everything, for saving them, for telling them yes to everything, to trying them to try and kind of like shut them up with an iPad and put them in the corner.
Yeah.
Which, don't get me wrong, I did. I mean, I did. I would hand you an iPad, or put on a DVD to make you just like sit quietly while I got my stuff done.
Yeah.
But
It's
um
not an all the time thing.
No, it wasn't an all
Mm,
the time thing at
no.
all. But I think the best part was it that you did, you kind of you wove your way, we wove you into my reality. Do you remember getting up and going to the YMCA at
Oh my
5:30 in the
gosh,
morning?
yes, and I still love early mornings.
Isn't
Bec
that funny?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, if you spend your whole childhood waking up at 4 or 5 in the morning to go do this thing with your mother,
Yeah.
it's what becomes normal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
and I obviously, and who doesn't love sleeping in sometimes,
yeah.
but the early mornings, those days are always the best days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it probably takes you back
Yeah,
too.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, you're still a baby. It's not like you're, 50 years old. I mean, all these things, you're still in your youth.
Oh, yeah.
But we used to have a lot of fun. So I had the stores, but I also loved fitness.
Mhm,
So I taught spin and yoga at Synergy, and Molly would go to school. So Molly went to this really cool private school, kind of similar if you're from around here, kind of similar to like Davidson Day or Cannon. It was a really great private school. It was preschool through 8th grade. So this was another thing I always wanted to bring up, that they did such a good job at structure
mhm,
at the school, that they made up in ways, and this gets back to the whole it takes a village thing. They made up for ways and in areas that maybe I couldn't do because A, who I was, and B, because of my business. But Molly would get up and I would drive her to the school, getting back to the YMCA. We would get up and I would go teach spin classes before she had to go to school.
mhm.
We would get dressed in the locker room, and then I would take her to Rumson Country Day, and she'd live her day at school while I went to work. And it was really fun. I mean, all that stuff, I agree with you. It can't do any harm. That's for
No.
sure. No, it's
No.
teaching really great habits.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so 4 different parenting styles.
Okay.
I'm going to hit you hard and fast.
Alright.
Authoritative parent is often considered the ideal style. It's a combination of warmth and flexibility while still making it clear that the parents are in charge. So to me, that's the most effective. 2, permissive parents might pride themselves on being their child's best friend. These on their child's best friend, these parents are warm and nurturing with open communication. They're actively involved in their children's emotional well healing. They also have low expectations and use discipline sparingly. Permissive parents, children can make their own choices, but also bail them out. So, not so much with the accountability. I think I was authoritative, right? I was authoritative. I was your buddy, but there were lines, there were boundaries.
Yeah. I think honestly, I think it might blend a little bit with permissive and authoritative. Just
Okay.
sometimes. Just
Okay.
sometimes. No, I definitely you were a great parent,
Well,
obviously,
you
but
could handle it too. You were
Oh,
a good
yeah.
kid. I didn't
Yeah.
have to be,
Mhm.
a jerk to you because
Yeah.
and then there's authoritarian, which is like super strict,
Mm,
definitely not me,
no.
and neglectful, we know is definitely not me. So, 4 styles of parenting: authoritative, permissive, authoritarian, and neglectful. What do you think you are out there? Authoritarian, neglectful, I hope not. Permissive, authoritative. That's probably the most valuable way to go. So, most importantly is that we have fun with our kids. And I'll take it back to Hector Iglesias. We're good people, they become good people. Look at this finished product. So, coming up on our 4th segment, we're going to go through some simple rules on conscious parenting, and we'll wrap it up there. So, we'll see you next segment. Don't go away. We'll be back. Welcome back, everybody. Episode 7. We're in our 4th segment. God, how time flew. This is the Good Soul, and we are talking about growing up good soul. And I'm here with my beautiful daughter, Molly, who just turned 23 years old.
Yeah.
Seems like yesterday. I was at Molly Jane's on Sunday.
Mhm.
She just had her baby. For those of you who don't know, she had her baby on September. Congratulations, February
Congrats.
28th. His name is Sebastian Edward. Yes, he's such a doll,
Aw.
and he's got finger toes like you did. He's got these like really long, cute feet, and holding that baby took me back. Guys, don't blink your eyes because it feels like yesterday. It goes so fast. And there's an old saying, and everybody's heard this in parenting, that the days are long and the years are short. But there's really no no words to describe the depth of the love and This is one of my favorite memes that always cracks me up when you call your kid and they don't answer their phone and there's like a meme and it's 4 boxes. Just Google it and they'll say, "What do you think when you call?" And there's like a picture of like a kid with like, like doing drugs or their car is in a ditch. Like it's like your mind just goes bananas.
Mhm.
It goes bananas. But I think that me and Manny, which of course, and let me acknowledge Manny too for taking Molly in. We just when we decided to move to North Carolina, um, Manny and Rachel and Jesse, um, they really did. They took us in as if that we were their own. I mean, yeah, the girls were great. Manny was great. The transition was very smooth, and it was never. We never had any tremendous drama. I think there were a couple little tips here and there, but overall, they're all such very sweet, pleasant. Yeah, that's life. It happens. Very sweet, mild mannered. All three of you are just perfect ladies, and I'm so proud of all three of you. So we're gonna have them on too. We're gonna have a whole blending family episode, but um, it's not just parents. It's not just formal parents. I mean, we have the cool aunt. There's people, our friends have kids. You don't necessarily have to be a formal parent to have an influence on the youth. I mean, let's face it, guys, this is our future. Our children really are our future. And we create these pattern makers to our society. And I mean, a parent could only hope, and I would hope, and I think I've done a good job at that. I've
Yeah.
created somebody that I'm proud of. Now, Molly's ready to graduate college and go out into
Mhm.
the world. But for those of you who have youngins, it's probably your most important job that you'll ever have in your life. And absolutely, we can say thankless, but definitely the most rewarding job. So I'm going to go through a school of thought or a way of thinking called conscious parenting, right? So this is really funny because I was tough at times. I think back to we were getting ready for the funk Christmas party. It was a Saturday and I was teaching a spin class. I taught the 6:45 Saturday morning class, 6:45 a.m. And class had ended and you went into the spin room and you were playing on the bike.
Mhm.
And those spin bikes, those Johnny G bikes, forget it, man. Those wheels are heavy.
Yeah.
So the wheel comes around and it spins into her shin.
Mhm.
But you barely cried. That's the thing.
Yeah.
She would look at me and it was like Mort from Madagascar. Like your eyes would like well up with tears, but you wouldn't cry. You were
Yeah.
like such a trooper. And I was like, "You're fine, kid. Come on."
Yeah.
And she'd be like all day, "Mommy, it
Yeah.
hurts."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh no, we did go to Hecky
We
that
went,
day."
yep.
So in my defense, we went to Hecky,
Mhm.
Dr. Iglesias, and he said basically if it was broke, you would know it
Yeah.
and she would know it. But this just goes to show you you're going to be great at birthing children because you have a high tolerance for pain. So he
Yeah.
gave you like an air cast and
Mhm.
crutches. And it was the funk Christmas party that night
Yep.
at Asbury Lanes. We had a bowling Christmas party. Wow, was that fun?
Yeah. Those are really fun. I remember
Yeah,
those.
yeah. Oh, and we didn't even get
Yeah.
into your birthday parties.
Oh my
Oh my
gosh.
god, the birthday parties we would have for her
Yeah.
were like bat mitzvahs. I would
Mhm.
go crazy. But at any rate,
Yeah.
um, that was a Saturday night. We end up in at Monmouth Medical getting X-rayed, and sure enough, your shin was fractured.
Well, I remember like 1, 2, or 3 days, like, leading up to the fun Christmas party, I kept complaining about it because it hurt so bad, and you kept asking me, like, "Do you want to go to the hospital? Are you in that much pain? Like, do you think it's broken?" And I'm like, "I don't know, because
And
I
I was
was
like
scared."
I was kind of mad while I was asking you,
Oh,
like,
well, you
God
were
damn
so
it,
busy
Molly.
with the
Yeah,
Christmas party and with
yeah,
Pumpkin Standard and everything. Um, and I just, like, I was so scared to go to the hospital, so I was like, "I'm fine, I think."
yeah. Well, it
Yeah.
makes me sad now that I would do that to you,
Well,
but
you didn't know. You didn't know that my leg was
I
broken.
know, but parents lose their patience and it does make me feel guilty. And this is why I always say, not only did you adapt, but you never made me feel guilty for anything. You
Yeah.
like even now, I basically was like, wait 3 days to get an x-ray
Mhm.
because I'm too busy. And and look at you, you're still like finding a way to give me compliments. Thank
Well,
you.
yes, I was an only child, but you always really did have another kid, Funkin' Standard,
That's
So
true.
I like I always understood that like you always had other things that you needed to take care of, blah blah
Yeah.
blah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that business was like a Lollapalooza for you. I mean, that was so
Oh
much fun.
yeah.
She
It
would
was
go into the
great.
store and come back like in like full on like outfits with big sunglasses and like, the like you always were that was a lot of fun for
Yeah,
you.
no, it
So
was great. I loved it.
but anyway, conscious parenting. I'm going to run down a few key points and then we're going to get back and wrap things up. I want to explain to the world all the great things that you have going on and what
Yeah.
you're going to make happen on
Okay.
this planet. So, conscious parenting. While there are many elements to conscious parenting, here are a few ideas that you might want to jot down, especially for your newer parents. Parenting is a relationship and not a one way transmission process. Children are their own unique people who can teach a parent. God knows we know that. I can go down a
Yeah.
million. Well, we're mirrors. Your kids are, they're literally reflections. So, you want to keep that healthy space, though, again, where your kids aren't responsible for your self worth and your identity. Conscious parenting is about letting go of a parent's ego, desires, and attachments. Instead of forcing behaviors on children, parents should focus on their own language, their expectations, and their self regulation. So, we didn't talk too much about love languages. That's a really fun topic to get into. Maybe in a future episode, we can talk about love languages from a parenting perspective. But do you know your love languages, by the way?
Acts of service and quality time, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Mine's physical touch and words of affirmation. Yeah. Right. So
That's so funny.
why is
Those
that
are Ethan's.
squeakies? Molly's boyfriend is one corner, Manny's in the other corner. Really, Sway? I know. I always say, like, as a woman, I'm like, I'll buy my own stuff. I'll do
Yeah.
my own stuff.
Yeah.
Just touch me and tell me how much you love me and how great you
Yeah.
think I am. And you've won my heart.
No,
That's
I
for
don't like
sure.
gifts at all. Like I don't need them. I don't feel
Yeah, I
loved
know. If
from
I
them.
want something, and Manny always
Yeah.
says holidays, if I want something, I go out and
Yeah.
get it, and that's it. So, okay. So instead of reacting to issues with consequences, parents should establish boundaries ahead of time and use positive reinforcement. I mean, I think boundaries are fantastic. And also that kind of leads you to leading with example and routine, which that gets back to our episode with Sam Wyatt with Atomic Habits. We always had a very strict routine every day. Nothing was very
Mm,
haphazard in our world.
yeah.
Instead of trying to fix a momentary problem like a tantrum, it's important to look at the process, what led to the event, and what does it mean in a bigger picture. So, really examining the trends and the patterns in the child's behavior, because as we all know, little problems become big problems. And it's really important to keep that in mind. We had a great speaker come to Rumson Country Day, and I cannot remember the name of the book. And I went on the Facebook page and they gave it to me, but it talked about how your children are who they are. So interventions can come in, whether it's, God forbid, drug addiction or a friend who's a bad influence. But basically, a stubborn child is going to be a stubborn adult, right? I always think of Aunt Jody with grandma. And when she was adopted, I
Hmm.
remember grandma saying, from the day I got her, we would lock horns, and
Yeah.
obviously grandma was crazy about Aunt Jody.
Oh
And I
yeah.
mean, they had a very strong and special bond, but it always sticks out in my mind. So, and your behaviors as a child
Hmm.
very much are now amplified as a young lady. So you want to watch that stuff really closely. Parenting is not just about making a child happy. God, no. Children can grow and develop through struggles. I don't even want to say children can grow and develop. Children do grow and develop through struggles.
Oh
A
yeah.
parent's ego and needs should not prevent a child's growth. Your kid does not have to come in first place every time. They don't have to win every prize. They're not going to get straight A's all the time. And it does make me sad. And I know I'm guilty of it. If anybody's watching who follows me on social media, I definitely have this very Pollyannic, very like life is blissful.
Hmm.
And I do, and that's really me. I don't have a dark side. I don't go home and act like a crazy person and
No.
go on.
Yeah.
But I think we all have to exercise a lot of caution on social media with our children and the high standards that we hold them to, and that every single thing they do does not have to be kind of like a badge of merit for us on social media, because if they fall short, and they will, they're going to feel really guilty for letting us down. So that's a really important thing I want to bring up. And last but not least, acceptance requires being present and engaging with whatever situations prevent themselves. So again, guys, it's not your kid's job. And I say this again, I speak to myself. It's not our job for our children to carry out our vision or our dreams in life. So, Molly, what an amazing honor and pleasure it's been to have you on the show. Molly is a senior at the University of Alabama.
Roll Tide.
Roll
Roll
Tide.
Tide. She'll be, and actually, her father is a professor there, so she
Uh-huh.
got to be there.
Yeah.
And she will be off to grad school. She wants to study naturopathy, and I'm really
Yeah.
excited about that. So hopefully, somehow we can collaborate together on something.
Who knows?
And thank you for letting me be your mom in this world,
Thanks
because
for being my
honestly,
mom.
it's been my you're welcome. It's been my life's greatest honor, and I love you more than words could ever say. I'm so proud of you.
You too.
So thank you guys all for watching. Please share, like, comment, and come back next week. And again, guys, together we will rise and we'll keep getting better at being who we are, sharing the stories of our good souls. So thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Peace and love to you all.